Well, hello from my side. It's really glad to see you all here. We have met most of you before in different conferences and so on. It's always good to see you in Estonia. So I have the challenge now to show you something about Estonia that you haven't seen. So let's go through the presentation. I will do the first part related to the land registration, and then my good colleague from the land board will also show the details of the land cadastre. So let's get it started. I will focus a little bit on the innovation, and I will explain you why. My good colleague Mehis also explained it well. What is the background? What is the foundation of the Estonian innovation? And in the land registry developments and land registry innovation, it's pretty easy to do something if the foundation is already good. So we can reuse all that Estonian innovation and implement it into one or two or multiple domains, and in this case in the land registry. As Mehis also mentioned, that the problem that we have is that we have a small number of people and we need to do things more efficiently because we just cannot afford large volumes or large number of government staff. So for us, since the beginning, since the 90s, it has been that the information technology is the key that we can cut down the numbers. And since then, all of the political parties that have been in power has supported the development of ICT solutions in Estonia. And the land registry is a good example of that, with a constant flow of investments in that sense. And in Estonia, there are three main registers that deal with land and real estate. Land board is the place where the geographical maps are situated, all technical coordinates of the land. And then Ministry of Economy is the register where the buildings are registered, all the technical details about the buildings. And then it's Minister of Justice, who is responsible of the land register, and county court, who's actually doing all the transactions in the land registry, and they are running the operations of land registry. If we look at the land register itself as a concept, then we kind of stole the idea from Germans and Austrians because it was pretty well working. So we enjoyed the whole idea of how to keep the land registry. So it's related to the land book, and so it's a book. So what we took, we implemented this. We have a first land register title page, which is the geographical link to the land cadastre, and we have owners, and then we have encumbrances and mortgages. The land register itself is considered public, meaning that everybody has a right to see what's inside the land title page and in the land register. This is the first land register book that was in the previous Estonian Republic, and as you can understand, the whole concept was taken as a book. So the electronic system looks like a book now. So when we converted the paper register to the electronic, it still is an electronical book. The key concepts are the same. And when I started, and when we started the transformation from the paper era to the electronic era, our vision was that we want to get rid of the paper to be more efficient, because we saw instantly that the problem itself is the paper. And the vision has been there ever since. So the whole government has this vision. And if you think of it, the long archives that we have had in the register, what is the logical way? Let's make the book more efficient. And how can we make a paper processes more efficient? Well, the obvious solution would be let's get something out of it, energy or something. But the idea was that the paper itself is a problem, and we need to somehow get rid of the problem and ever since we have been working on digitalizing. So back to the land registry as a concept, we put the book into the electronic system. We data mined all the information. We have structured data in the databases. And we linked the data to different government systems like cadastre. It's a strong link. There cannot be any ownership without the actual physical land. That was one of the key concepts. And also to Estonians in the population register, there is a link between the persons. It's a unique identifier every person has in Estonia. And also to the business register, which is the link that has in the business register as a company number. Of course, it doesn't work with foreigners. I hope that at some stage we will come to the point that inside the European Union, I can make a search of John Smith in UK even to import the data to the land registry, because then we will not make mistakes while typing in. Because right now we can only import the information from our own national registers. We already started this with Finland, and a few words about this in the coming slides as well. And of course, building register is linked to the electronic land register via cadastre number, that the building and the land is put together. And when the process of putting the links together, we realized that there is a very important link missing, and this is the link of notaries. And notaries are the persons that the government trusts to do the conveyancing transaction between the parties, the middleman of the transaction. And most of the paper that we received to the land registry came from the notaries. So we started thinking together with the Chamber of Notaries and the notaries, maybe we can improve this process as well. Maybe we can somehow get rid of the paper in this process. And I have to say that the Estonian notaries are very innovative. They instantly came along with this whole idea, and the new solution was born, which is called e-notary. And e-notary is a solution that actually helps notaries to manage the communication between the notary and the government institution. It's a kind of a door to all the government systems. So for the land registry, this was very good solution in that sense. Notaries decided that they are traditional profession and they still want to keep the paper. We said, very fine, keep the paper in the notary archives and send us only the electronic copies with electronic signatures. And from the government side, we're very satisfied with this. And that was put to action, and we haven't received any paper since. I will quickly show you the process that we went through to come to this point. It wasn't easy. I joined the team around 2002, and I saw a lot of problems up in the air. And we had so many IT systems in the beginning that we lost count what was good. And every IT system generated some new problems and solved some problems. But the data quality from the old system to a modern electronic system, it was a big hassle. And we had to manually go through all the records in our databases in order to improve the data quality. So it wasn't an easy job. It wasn't done in a few years. It was a long process, how to improve the data quality and actually close down the paper register and make the electronic records legally valid so that we don't need to have a backup paper anymore. And then we burned the paper. Actually, we didn't burn it, we gave it away. We wanted to burn it, but the Estonian National Archives, they said that it's a history, so they wanted to keep the old records. So we said, fine, bye-bye. And the process, before we made change in the digital transformation, it was a little bit long. The process in notary office and especially the process in land register was taking time, because There was a real estate boom at that time, and a lot of transactions were coming in, and we had to move the papers, a lot of papers, and we had to actually do a double work, electronic and on paper. And it all took quite a lot of time, so we saw that the process was approximately 90 days, which wasn't really good in sense of economy. And we changed the system, we did a lot of quality checks, and we implemented the e-notary system so that the records, the applications and the conveyancing contracts were coming in now electronically. And we cut off the paper near the notary, so that notary wants to keep the original, that's perfect for us. And from that on, the whole process is electronic. We also send information back to the notary system, and we also notify the participants via email or via messages that they can see the outcomes of the process. We don't send any more paper out. And if we look at the whole results of this digitalization, we have a very good availability of the real estate information. Actually, on the outside, you can go and see it on the touchscreen, how the information is structured and how the information is stored in our system. We have a legal validity of the electronic data, which was not easy. If you see it on the screen, you have to believe it. There's no other way to solve that. So you cannot take the paper, because paper is not the original. The electronic records are. And of course, Mehis also mentioned the wonders of data exchange with government institutions. And this was done with an X-Road system, which was perfect for us in order to improve our data quality. And of course, there is an automation. And the automation is something that we wanted to improve as well. I'm going to talk a little bit on what are the risks in automation as well during this presentation. Along the way, new disrupting technologies came in. One of them was blockchain. In the last few years, everybody was talking the blockchain. It's going to change the world. It's going to disrupt the whole business. Everybody will lose their jobs and so on and so on. Well, in Estonia, we are kind of hands-on. We started thinking, okay, let's check this blockchain out. So we implemented the blockchain in the Land Registry. We're still here. Registrars are still in business. Notaries are still in business. Everybody's doing their business. Well, it's the blockchain we use, and how we use it, it's our choice. So we decided that the blockchain will give us a new method of minimizing the risks. So currently, all our records in the Land Registry are protected with the blockchain, so no one can hack into our systems and change secretly something without us knowing it. So when there is a big change or a small change, the bells will go off and we know about it. And that's how we use the blockchain. And it's a good result for us in order to keep our registers secure. But it didn't change much. The actual users or the citizens, they don't even see the blockchain. And they don't have to, because they're pretty satisfied with the result of the current process. And the X-Road automation, or using the X-Road, well, X-Road is it's like an internet. Mehis didn't mention it much, but it's basically an internet. And all the government institutions, they have to be connected to it. And all the government databases have to connect it to it. So when we were receiving changes from the land cadastre, that land cadastre has changed the area of a land parcel, or the purpose of land was changed, these kind of records came into our systems, and people had to manually type it in and make the changes in the land register as well, so that those two registers were updated. Then we decided that let's try to automate this, and let's do all the changes that the land cadastre is making. Let's overnight automatically import them to the land register and make the changes automatically, so that registrars have less work. They don't have to look at it. It's the technical details. Areas are changing, the purpose of land, and then Land board decided they're going to change the whole structure of addresses in Estonia. So imagine that all the addresses in Estonia were changing. What happens in the automation is that all those records that are in the land register will be updated overnight in the land register as well. Land cadastre, land register. So during this, we were a little bit scared, and we were thinking what can happen. It's a lot of records being changed at the same time. And of course, something happened. And this is our automation examples between the cadastre and land register. When there is a change in some areas of the cadastre, it will be taken over by the land register. And suddenly, we started seeing whole new decisions. Due to technical mistakes in our software code, the machine was making those transactions, but they made a mistake. In the first record in 2014, we can see a sentence, and every lawyer knows that the sentence can change the world. So one of the sentences suddenly disappeared from the next automated transaction. And we realized that this might be a bigger problem, and we started looking at, there was about 10,000 real estate parcels, title pages were changed in a short period of time. We didn't see it instantly in the beginning, because the machine was making those transactions. And then it was a question, who should repair this? Because if a machine makes a mistake, then maybe the machine should repair the mistake. So that's a dilemma we had, and we couldn't really figure it out for a long time. We were discussing a lot of meetings and so on. So who should be the one that is making decisions? And of course, after the long discussions, we divided the work and we looked into it more. And so we divided that some complicated cases, registers must manually repair. So actually, the registers started repairing the machine mistakes. And then other part which were more simplified, the machine could repair by itself with the help of developers. So these are the things that we are nowadays working. We're constantly aware that every technology change that we're doing can break the business process, can make mistakes, and now we need to put a process how to prepare those or how to repair those mistakes if a machine makes a mistake. And now we're moving from the paper era to electronic era to automated era, which means that the machines are doing not mistakes, hopefully, but the machines are doing decisions. So I'm sure that in the next coming years, next 10, 15, 20 years, there's more automations coming in, and more transactions are so clear that can be done by machines, and there's less work for the registrars. So these kind of things we need to constantly consider and see that there are no mistakes and how to correct those mistakes. And as I mentioned, together with Finland, we're both using the X-Road system as a technical background or a backbone for the government. And if one country is using it, the other country is using it, and we can combine those two countries. So it's not going to be anymore the question of whether we can get access to people's registry only in Estonia, but we can get access also the register of peoples in Finland to import the information and to validate the information. So no more mistakes. The wonders of X-Road is it's not built specially for land register. It's built for all government systems. So the interconnection of land registers across Europe is a good thing, but very soon it needs to grow as well. The same thing that we're doing together with Finland and Estonia is that we're opening all the government databases to each other so that we can easily check the information and use the information across borders. Actually, the X-Road now is used in already many countries, has proven to work. And what did we get out of this electronic transformation and automation is that the whole information quality is better. We have better security than we had on paper. Just remember the fire or the flood or hiding those files from the register, the old archives. Nowadays we have all in our fingertips, and if something happens, we can see the changes online. And of course, the process itself is much faster. When I mentioned 90 days, nowadays it's 5 days around that to do a transaction. On the notary side, it moves really fast to the registrar. The registrar then takes the process when it's possible to process it. Of course, other stakeholders, they received a lot of efficiency from this whole electronic system. There's a courts, bailiffs, notaries, and so on. But definitely the banks. Nowadays, the banks will give you a loan in 15 minutes because they have access to the system. They can instantly see what are the assets, who is owning the land, and if I'm owning a land, then I can get a mortgage offer in minutes. So this opens up whole new doors for the economy. And of course, for the registrars, which is a pretty interesting result from this, is that when we digitalized all the archives, the people stopped coming because there is no papers to bring, there's no papers to take, so people do it from home. So why do we need a counter service? Because nobody is coming there. So we closed down the counter service, and then our registrars, I can't see my good fellow registrar here, Neme, he will be here probably. They started asking, why do we need to come to the office anymore? So we said, well, we don't mind, you can work from home as well. So we gave the computers and we gave the electronic identity access so they can use their electronic signatures from home. So they're not coming to the office anymore. We closed down the offices as well. So our registrars are working from home. I think they're at home, but maybe they are in Spain, somewhere in warm place, because we don't actually check that, because they just need to do their work and they need to be secure in the work they're doing. Where they are doing it, actually, we don't know. So that's a benefit, because 2 hours per day for commuting is 60 days per year that you save. So it's a huge amount of saving from the commuting. And it seems that the registrars like it. But, of course, there are some downsides in this as well. They still want to meet time to time because they forget each other's faces, and the Skype communication is not always so personal. So we need to solve those problems on the way as well. Of course, when everything is digital, we need less people, meaning that technical staff especially. So basically what we need now is mostly registrars, because registrars are the ones that actually do the work. They don't need some people to carry them papers with their trolleys. They just log in and do their transactions. Everything is in their fingertips. And especially the workload in Tallinn, in the capital area, is much higher than in other regions. So when we had everything electronized, then the workload could be distributed. So we changed the processes as well, or the regulations, so that we can process those applications in different regions. So we distributed the works even more. So that helped a lot to improve the process and efficiency. And as we are now closed, then everybody is working from home. The good thing is that the number of people in our registry or the registrars, it's not changing, but the transaction amounts are changing. So with technology, we can solve that without actually hiring more people. So it will be a boom soon probably, because we can see it growing quite fastly with all the transactions. We have about million real estate parts. And during this digitalization process, I calculated that the savings from the whole change has been approximately 50% from the personnel and rent costs, because there's no need to have offices, no need to have big archive rooms, no need to have technical labor. And this is a pretty big change in the numbers. It's a rough estimate, so it's not the exact science. But you could instantly see that there is a nice way of implementing the whole cost thing. And of course, in the future, we need also money for the next steps in the innovation. So what would be the next steps? I was tempted to put here some cyborg of making decisions, a picture of cyborg. But actually, I think the changes that we're doing next are not so big. We have to solve GDPR problems with the name searches. In Estonia, the tradition is to check the land register based and search by the name. Nowadays, and it's anonymous. So with the GDPR, we need to close this for anonymous users, and we need to open it up for logged-in users. So you have to know who is the actual person who's making the searches. So it's a change as well. And we're actually currently building a next generation land register. Why? We have everything working pretty well, but the technology is almost 13 years old. And if you remember, Mehis told that in Estonia we have a policy that no IT system in the government should be older than 13 years. So now we're in a breaking point of having a legacy system. So we started already a few years up front to start preparing for the next generation land registry system. And the good thing about this, how we do it, is that we try to do it as an open source. It's a modern way of how to developing IT systems, so that anybody, if they find it interesting or they find it useful, they can take the same IT system, reuse it, change it, modify it, and implement it in their own country. Of course, every country needs to make small changes, but our theory is that land as such, the ownership as such, and the person and the link between the land and the owner, the person, it's the structure is the same in every country. Technically, it doesn't make sense of rebuilding the same thing over and over in each country. So let's see how that goes. We're doing our first project on this. It probably takes us a few years to take all the legacy functionality that we have, change it, optimize it, and put it to the new technology. And of course, we're innovating in the service level as well, or service desk as well. Nowadays, artificial intelligence is the one that should help us to manage our incoming calls and user questions and so on and so on. So we're trying to take a next step in this as well. Of course, as you saw, the translation in the printout that I showed you about the problem that we had wasn't very good. So the register itself is in Estonian language, and not all the people know Estonian language. So we have a problem to solve in sense of translating the whole land register into English or into any other language. Google Translate is good, but it's not so good, so it makes mistakes. So we are having a special project to use machine learning to do the translations, and we are starting to teach the machine how to translate those land registry records so that it knows the specific language how to translate. It's going to be probably my next presentation in the coming years, that how did we do in this. And of course, automation improvements, that's our next step as well. Imagine that there is a woman getting married, then they change the name. It's a custom in Estonia. Not sure if it's everywhere else, but mostly it is. So when the name changes, why should the person do an additional application to the land registry and say that I changed my name? In Estonia, we have all the access to all the systems, so we know actually that the person changed the name. So we try to innovate in that way that the change will be done in the land registry as well. So all the real estate that you have, your name will be automatically changed. In case of a person, it's not so big deal, but imagine a bank changing name or merging two banks. All the mortgages that we have in our system now need to switch. Imagine the automation mistakes you can have with the mortgages. So this is a challenge that we're going to take in the next coming years. Let's see how we do on that. We need to be really careful. And of course, it's always the question that we keep our mind. When can we replace the machine or replace the human with the machine? It's not going to be probably in the next 10 years, but we're moving to that direction because machines are more efficient anyhow. We don't need to have a lot of registrars in the future. Probably we probably need 1, 2, 3 registrars in the future in 10 years. But of course, there's a long way to go there, and we're probably going to make a lot of mistakes on the way. And the road may change based on those mistakes. So we'll see how the future goes, but we're definitely doing some steps in order to test this out and see how the automation and artificial intelligence can change our processes and systems. But I'm going to give my good colleague now a chance to come and explain how the land cadastre is working, so that we can see the other side. There is I now remember that there is a question pool that I need to show out here. Which one? This one. So, if you fancy the technology, you could put your response in your mobile app to the question that we put up. Will the artificial intelligence and automation disrupt the registrar's function in the next 10 years or so? So if you have an opinion on this, you could just respond and see what are the opinions on this. But I will now leave the stage. And
thank you, Ingmar.